Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be going through our Dynasty Salary Cap League Week 13 recap. Throughout this season, we've been giving you a behind-the-scenes look into our own Dynasty Salary Cap League. We feel like the format's not talked enough about, and so we thought, hey, why not us, Joe? So we're going to go through. This is important. We're heading into Week 14. I would say, as you'll see when we talk through the matchups, I think most of the spots have been determined. There's only a few teams here in the hunt that could possibly displace the 7 teams that make it. This is a 16-team league. 7 teams make the playoffs, similar to how the NFL does it. 16 teams in the conference, 7 teams make the playoffs with the first team getting a bye. So, Joe, why don't we start off with my matchup, which I was worried about this matchup, and I made that trade with Mark so that I could for sure win. I won 286.4 to Mark's 209.7. So far, don't know if the trade was worth it for me. Baker ended up playing, scored 30.4 points. Dak got 44.3. We've now been hearing that Mike Evans, his window for practice is back open. They're saying he might play. They're saying Jalen McMillan might be coming back. The whole band's coming back together in Tampa. So now that Baker's starting to get his weapons, we saw Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin came back last week. I don't know, Joe. I'm wondering if I made the right move here.
Yeah, I still think you did. I get the band's coming back for the Bucks, and like I said, Bucky Irving also coming back was a guy I knew was going to help that Bucks offense as well. And Baker didn't really see him play like any differently with that shoulder injury that he came into the week with. So I was pretty impressed with that. But I still think Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense probably still gives you a little bit higher of a ceiling there. And then you also getting Jordan Brooks in that deal I think helped you as well. I mean, he 24 points. He's just been an absolute tackle machine, and you can pretty much set it and forget it with him as well.
Yeah, and Sherwood would have been 9.5. He did not have as good.
It's a 30-point difference between the two players.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would definitely would have made it a lot tighter. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Next matchup here, we got Dan versus Jason. And I'll tell you what, Joe, Dan's team has just been so dominant. And part of the reason why is Myles Garrett. I mean, you're looking at him possibly breaking the sack record for a regular season. I mean, he's just been on an absolute tear. And, Jordan Love is going to get Dan 60 points. He's going to be pretty tough to beat, although I feel bad for Jason. He made all those moves, but Lamar Jackson has really failed him.
Yeah. He really has. I don't know what's going on with that Ravens offense and Lamar Jackson. He just doesn't quite look like himself. But at the same token, if Isaiah Likely doesn't fumble at the goal line and that offensive pass interference is called, that's 2 extra touchdowns for Lamar Jackson and a decent amount more yards as well. So things could have looked a little different if those things didn't go its way, but definitely he's been a shell of his former self here. Since he had one good game after the injury, and then it's just kind of been downhill since.
Next, we got Charlie versus Andrew. Charlie decided to give Andrew a run for his money, and he won this game 308.4 to Andrew's 283.25. Based on how the score was, I thought this was going to be an absolute landslide. But now that I'm looking, I'm like, wow, how did Andrew close the gap? But Paul Debo had quite a showing, it looks like, for him, which helped in that Monday night game. But, I mean, I think Charlie's team is, we thought we ranked him very high in the power rankings. But it's just he had injuries and his offense was very inconsistent. Andrew losing Amon-Ra St. Brown, this could hurt him. He has to win right now in order to stay in the playoffs. He's going to be going up against Paul next week. That's going to be a big game.
Yeah, that is a big matchup. Just looking at his bench, he doesn't have a ton of options to get him points with missing Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, that's a absolute huge loss for Andrew's team. And honestly, with St. Brown, depending on what the type of game that he has, Andrew probably beats Charlie if he has one of his normal performances. So it's just an unfortunate injury for Andrew and a tough loss here.
Yeah, it looks like you definitely are going to get the number one pick, Joe.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
not you, but somebody
yeah.
else.
Somebody else is getting the number one pick, especially because week 14 bye strikes hard. I don't have another quarterback to play in for Drake May either. So
Oh boy. Next, we've got Paul versus Adam. Paul had a fantastic showing. Ended up beating Adam 356.5 to Adam's 275.5. This now puts Paul in prime position to be the number one seed, which gotta hand it to Paul. Definitely, I would say that of all the teams this year, definitely a team I was not expecting for this to happen. So bravo to him.
yeah, for sure. We didn't see this happening with Paul, but he's had a really good year, 11-2 record here. We'll see how everything goes. Typically, one seeds don't exactly fare well in our league once the playoff hits. So see if Paul can continue to defy those odds.
Which is crazy because we've had, this league's been around for 6 years, and the number one seed always gets the bye, and that's such an advantage, but it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, right. Now it'll be interesting, after his team gets a bye, who he ends up facing here.
Next matchup here, we got Tom versus Chris and Nolan. Another upset of the week here. Tom ends up winning 374.45 to Chris and Nolan's 348.8. I think Tom was inspired because Joe Burrow finally decided to come back. And honestly, it just kind of reminded me, and it's something we've talked about throughout the year. I just really wonder if Tom would have just went ahead and bite the bullet and decided to trade for a quarterback. Would we be talking about him in the playoffs right now? Because his team all around, I mean, we had him as the number 2 overall rated team. But if him not having a quarterback, it just crushed him.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned last week, literally, if he would have just once Joe Burrow goes down, if he makes a trade with Mark, gets Dak Prescott, I think Tom's a playoff team. That literally was the one piece that he was missing. He's got Derrick Henry, James Cook on his team, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson's coming back, playing really well for him here too. I mean, he's got the pieces, and then Max Crosby on defense as well. Getting him 50 points. So, I mean, I think it was all there. Just with him not making a move at quarterback and just taking those losses, I think it definitely hampered his ability to make the playoffs here. And I think he would have been a playoff team had he had addressed the quarterback position.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to Chris and Nolan, their team has kind of been in a spiral here. They got a big matchup up against John this week. There's some pretty big matchups heading up in week 14. It really worked out well. All the people that kind of need to play each other are playing.
Yeah, you always like to see that, and you never know when the schedule comes out. At the beginning of the year how it's going to shake up, but it's nice to see there's some relevant matchups for people to get excited about and pay attention to the league here.
Next, we got Aaron versus Tim. Aaron wins this game 350.8 to Tim's 173.15. At the end of the day, really not much to say on this one, Joe. Aaron mopped the floor, and Aaron secured himself another year in the playoffs. I think his team could definitely be dangerous.
Yeah, I think it definitely could be dangerous. I mean, we've been seeing the last few weeks here where he's been scoring over 300 points, and that's really what you need to do in order to win. I mean, especially come playoff time, I think you're going to need if everyone's teams plays up to their ability, you're going to need to put up 300 plus points to most likely get a win.
Next matchup here, huge upset, just a catastrophic upset. Josh ends up beating John. John was in prime position for the number 1 seed. Josh wins 370.05 to John's 278.5. I was not expecting this beatdown here.
Yeah, no, I wasn't either, but that's what Josh has a sneaky team. It's kind of unfortunate. I think it'll be tough if for him to make the playoffs. I'm not sure he has a real chance, but just given the points that he's put up over the year, it's pretty impressive. Just unfortunate with the matchups, how that worked out. He happened to just take the losses. His record's just not there. But on any given week, his team can put up these type of performances and compete with anybody.
Well, he's got to be happy with Dallas Turner. He drafted him pretty high in our draft, and he's been somewhat of a bust. Had a breakout. I think probably a career, it was a career game for him. Really came on the scene, so that is probably encouraging for him with 2 forced fumbles, 2 sacks, 4 solo, assisted tackle, 2 tackle for loss, 3 QB hits, and a pass deflection.
Yeah, it's tough with a guy like Dallas Turner. You saw he had all the speed and everything, but it was just, can he develop into all those intangible things that he had with his athleticism and speed, and can he really translate that into being a dominant pass rusher? And I tell you that given the last couple of weeks here, he seems to have kind of turned a corner, and I think he's an interesting asset for Josh moving forward here.
Last matchup here, Joe, you gave Jake a run for his money here. 303 to 353.75. Jake ends up winning the matchup. You would have beat me if we played. Your team, I think, has, I think fared pretty well considering. I see that Joseph Osai likes playing for you better than me. I understand it. For Jake's side, he's got to be happy to see Micah Parsons finally start to come on. He had a slow start, but he's creeping back.
Yeah, it has been a slow start for him, but he is creeping back. And yeah, I think this was my highest scoring point total on the year, which was pretty nice. And it was unfortunate, I couldn't sneak up to Jake and possibly beat him, but I, happy that I finally got over the 300 point mark on the season, and that will end as my best performance because, like I said, I don't have Drake May this week, and thus I don't have a backup quarterback to put in for him. So my team against him this upcoming week isn't going to put up that many points.
So, like I said, going into this upcoming week, we got some marquee matchups. You've got me versus Dan, most likely for the division. You've got Paul versus Andrew. Andrew's fighting for his playoff life, and Paul's trying to secure the number 1 seed. Chris and Nolan are playing John. John is trying to secure the number 1 seed. Chris and Nolan are fighting for their playoff lives. And then you've got Jake versus Aaron, possibly for the division. And Jake is also fighting for his playoff life. He needs this win. So like I said, it just so happens that we do it where with our divisions, you play your division opponents the first 3 weeks of the season, the last 3 weeks of the season. But just so happened that the matchups that needed to happen are going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And, we got 2 guys trying to complete the perfect the divisional record on the season, with Dan currently sitting at 5-0 and Aaron sitting at 5-0, trying to get both of them trying to get 6-0 against their division on the year.
That's always a good feeling when you can, beat up on your division.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, that's always what you want to do in the real life NFL. If you want a chance at one of the top seeds, you got to beat your division in order to do that and not be a wild card team. And it's kind of no different the way we structure our league too.
Yeah, which I think makes it fun. You could say it's arbitrary, but it's interesting. Real quick here. I mean, when we talk about the different divisions, we do east, north, south, west type of deal. Kind of following the same pattern of the NFL, and throughout this year we had talked about the West division is just unbelievable, right? Where you've got John, you've got Tom, you've got Chris and Nolan, you've got Josh. All 4 teams you could say are juggernauts. But interestingly enough, if the playoffs were to end today, only one of those teams make the playoffs, which is just interesting because we've said that that's the most stout division. Meanwhile, we feel that the East division with Paul, Charlie, Adam, and Andrew, we're like, oh, this division is the worst one. And you're looking at 2 right now with Andrew and Paul, possibly. So it just goes to show the divisions, especially in a dynasty salary cap league. Not only with the dynasty league, you've got you're changing your roster year over year with a salary cap piece, but because you have that division element, you could be on the top of your division and all of a sudden go right to the bottom.
Yeah, well, I think that for the case of the West there, I think the stronger division, they're beating up on each other, and being that you play them, multiple times as well, I think they kind of win their records, where those weaker ones, I mean, you're talking about Paul sitting at 4-1, Andrew also 4-1 against the division, weaker opponents. They're not cannibalizing each other, and they're able to have the better records.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. That could possibly be the case. Although, I mean, John's 3-2 against his division, and Chris and Nolan are 3-2 as well. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's a one win difference. But I guess at the end of the day, that is, what's riding on this could be 1 win difference.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I mean, if Josh had one more win, who knows that would honestly probably be the difference for him. And if he were to win this week, I mean, he'd be more so a lock than on the outside looking in at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, even look at the NFL. I mean, look at the difference between the AFC West and the NFC South, right? I mean, I'm going cross conference here, but that can happen. AFC East was brutal for years. Now the Patriots have kind of rose back to relevance. Now you got the Bills and the Patriots, but it can happen where a team can just dominate a division and the other teams are just bottom feeders.
Yeah, I mean, it really was the Chiefs and the AFC West, but this year has changed, and we'll have a new division winner this year in the AFC West.
Oh boy, here we go.
The Chiefs have been reigning, man, but it's no longer. Well, I don't know if the Broncos will end up winning it or not, but we got either way.
I think that's what you were insinuating, winner. Joe.
No, I'm not trying to insinuate that. Just saying we'll have a new divisional winner in the AFC West, and it won't be the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
I see. If you haven't tried a Dynasty salary cap league before, we highly recommend that you do so. It's the most strategic. There are so many different elements that are at play. But we really encourage. It could be a lot of work for you, but it's worth it. Especially if you can find a commissioner who's willing to do it. It's crazy like me, who's willing to manage all this stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.